Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of the Bold Take Podcast. It is here, the official College Football 25 Bold Take Podcast review. I'm Austin Wader. You know the man next to me, the North Carolina Dynasty legend in College Football 25 himself, the Austin Hill.
Yeah.
Austin, we have to talk about a game we've been waiting for. I know it's only been 11 years, but it feels longer.
Yeah, it feels longer than that. It feels like it's been 11 years since they announced they were bringing it back, and it's really been, 2 years?
2-3 years at
Yeah.
most. But yeah, we're here. We're going to give you our review. So our main focuses are going to be talking about gameplay, presentation, commentary, and Dynasty. We will add a little bit on Team Builder and Road to Glory later on. But, enough talk, because the faster we get through this, the faster I can get back to playing this game. So let's jump
exactly
into
how I
it.
feel.
Let's start with the thing that everyone matters about, and that is gameplay. Austin, from, I will say, over a week of playing this game, what is your impressions on gameplay so far?
Look, there was I was kind of a big, I was weary on the podcast and openly, just that, I was worried about how the gameplay might be. There was all this talk about how it was different. But like I said, I needed to see the game. I needed to play the game, because obviously they're not going to tell you that the game plays like Madden. When it's one of the most hype released video games ever. It's definitely the most
fair.
hyped sports game release in the history of video games. So, they're not going to tell you that it's a Madden reskin.
Right.
It's a matter of actually getting in there and feeling it out. And I can definitely tell from, all the aspects of the game, but definitely in the gameplay, how they've designed this game to look and feel completely different from Madden. That was a huge emphasis. You can really tell that this is its own game. It operates on its own, and that's something I've been very happy with. The gameplay feels faster, and there were some complaints I had with Madden that I was worried might trickle its way into this game. I hate the momentum meter in Madden. It is stupid, because that's not how momentum works in real football.
You don't suddenly gain the ability to know what blitzes are coming or anything like that.
Or you don't suddenly gain the ability to know where the quarterback's throwing it as soon as he goes to throw the football. I hate that so much. But obviously that doesn't exist. You've just got the home field advantage, just like in the old games, which I really liked. Another thing I didn't really care for was the way that the hurry up works in the new Madden games, where it just automatically takes all the time off the clock and you're automatically set at the line. So it always feels like they take way too much time off the clock in Madden when you do that. In this game, again, a lot like the older games, where you see the guys run up to the line and the real time ticks off the clock that you really missed. That way, you're not getting screwed. Nobody's overselling you or cutting you short on how much time. You're getting exactly what it takes to get down the field. And it just feels like a more authentic representation of college football, and it feels different than Madden. Just how watching an NFL game feels different from watching a college football game. And so I really like that attention to detail and that care that they really took over these 2 years to make this game feel different and feel like it used to.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. Listen, there are many great things about this game, which we'll talk more about in a second. But without a shadow of a doubt, gameplay is by far the best thing on there, which I had some positive hope about for this game, about it being faster. Like you said, we were both like, this sounds really good. Let's get our hands on it and see what it feels like. You're absolutely right. It feels faster. And let's face it, college football is a much faster sport. A lot more tempo in the game. A lot more speed difference between guys. We're breakaway speed and long touchdown passes, because obviously the difference in overall for corners, that happens a lot more in college football than it does in the NFL, because the NFL, let's face it, that's the best of the best at each position. College football, there's a big difference between a Northern Illinois cornerback and a, let's say, a Georgia wide receiver. There's a big difference. You feel that in the game, and it just makes it feel more electric. Now, is it the most realistic gameplay? Absolutely not. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not realistic, but it is so much fun to play. It feels like arcade mode, kind of, but still college football. There's so many electric stuff that happens all the time. It still feels pretty realistic to go with that.
Yeah, there are a lot of people, a lot of detractors who obviously don't want this game to succeed, because, what it could mean for the popularity of other sports games, who say, oh, this isn't realistic. This doesn't happen in a football game. Well, one, it kind of does. College football is kind of a land of where the things you think can't happen do happen in a football game. I mean, that even goes as far as the 1 point safety has happened in a college football game. So, a lot of the unexpected happens. But look, nobody wants to sit around and play a boring, old, realistic,
Right.
accurate 100% football simulator. Look, I want to have some fun. I want to see some excitement, some big plays. That's what college football is all about, the crazy, the unpredictable. Look, you talk about some of these greatest, most electrifying plays in the history of college football. You look at it. The kick six is that. I mean, if you put that in a video game, had that never happened in real life, you put
Right.
that in a video game,
Right.
people are like, "Oh, this is ridiculous. That doesn't happen." I mean, even people watching the game said that doesn't happen. Nick Saban didn't kick that field goal expecting it to be run all
Right.
the way back. So it's just about the unpredictability and the unexpectedness. There's just so many games in college football. So much can happen and so much does happen. And so I think that, people who don't like the big exciting plays, look, this just isn't for you. And
Yep.
that's fine.
Exactly.
Look, college football is just not for you. But for those of us that love college football, I think that these big, exciting, maybe a little bit unrealistic plays really kind of add to that energy of the college football sphere.
Yeah, absolutely. And just some minor things. Number one, I love that hurdles actually work in this game.
Me too.
Unlike in Madden, where you try a hurdle, no matter if you think you're in a good position, it doesn't work. In this one, I'm not saying it works every time, but I mean, I literally scored a touchdown. It's one-on-one, me and a safety and my running back, and I did a perfectly timed hurdle over the top of him to get into the end zone and fall in. I'm like, I've seen that. I've seen Lamar Jackson do that on a Thursday night on ESPN before. So that was great. And another thing I like that's just a simple thing, the corners, they have to turn and see the ball to make a play on it in the game. I mean, that's one of the things that frustrated me the most with Madden is I could throw it and I'm like, okay, his head's turned. There's no way he should be able to intercept it. He could be facing this way and the ball could be coming this way and he'll just pick it off somehow. And that doesn't happen in this game, and it allows you to fit the ball into tighter windows, which, by the way, brings me to my next point. The revamped passing, look, it takes some time to master. I'm going to be honest with you. It takes a bit of time, but I think it is one of the most fun features and makes it really more challenging.
I don't use the revamped
You
passing.
don't?
I didn't even dare mess with I set it up because it was like revamped passing, and I was like, okay, let me try this. And then I threw my first pass, and I was like, I don't like this. So I went back to the classic passing. But yeah, still, you can still look. I know that the sacrifice is that I'm not going to be able to throw the ball as well.
Right, right.
And I'm willing to make that sacrifice. But yeah, I still make, like you said, I've made a lot of throws in this game where I kind of slip back into Madden and I'm like, oh shoot, I just threw a pick because that corner's going to make a play. And all of a sudden I see the corner dive and miss the ball and I've got a breakaway touchdown because the corner had no idea where the ball was and he has to try and make this freak play that, let's just face it, can't be made in real life, and it doesn't get made, and it allows me to kind of capitalize on the defense being out of position. Something I really like about this game going on, the passing game, is, look, in Madden, you have plays where you run like maybe one of those little switch routes.
Right.
And you're supposed to read the safety, and the safety has to pick a guy. Well, in Madden, the safety picks the guy, you throw to the other guy, and the safety still makes the pick. And it makes me absolutely sick to my stomach because that's the point of the switch route.
Exactly, right.
In this game, look, you read the safety, you read the defense well, and you get rewarded for it. So it just feels like a different game. You almost wouldn't even think that EA made this game.
Yeah.
It feels so different from Madden.
It really does, and they brought in people from other games. 2K, NFL 2K5, NFL head coach for some of the realism. Another point bringing up wear and tear. Now I know this was a big thing they hinted at, but I will be honest. I've tried to be strategic with it a little bit, but it hasn't been like a huge thing overall. It's been like a little bit of a factor, but not a huge thing.
Yeah, I've run into an issue where a couple times I've had running backs get kind of banged up near the end of the season. But I do like that you have to kind of manage the reps of your running back because in Madden and in the old NCAA games, look, I could go and just because what I like to do is I like to throw the ball all around the field. Then in the fourth quarter when I got that big lead, I just like to pound the ball, eat the clock away. But you give your running back 15 carries in the fourth quarter of every single game in the season, that's going to add up, especially when teams know you're running the ball over and over again. They're going to come in and hit. And so, look, I've had to go games where I just sit my starter out in the last game of the regular season. So he's ready for the bowl games. He's ready for the college football playoff. But I like that level of realism. You can't just sit there and pound the rock over and over and over and over again and not expect any repercussions. So, yeah, it doesn't come up a whole lot, but I do like that, at least the way I've played it, it's got a realistic thing.
Yep.
You can't run a 19-year-old kid into a brick wall over and over and over again and expect him to do that, 16 games in a row.
Right, exactly. I will say, if there's one major issue that I do have with the gameplay, and it could be just because I don't know, I suck at it, is pursuit on defense. That if there's one thing that is a minor issue which can be fixed in updates, which I imagine they've already talked about, they had their plans for their first update.
I read some patch updates kind of today.
But and my thing is, I feel like, and this is just a different level of speed and stuff in college football. I could do a pursuit and I'm like, I got him, there's no way, and then I don't even touch the guy. And it's just like I as points I'm like, maybe I just suck at defense. Maybe I just got really lucky in the game, but sometimes I'm like, I feel like I should have made that tackle there.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like tackling kind of in the open field in general is a little bit sloppy. It's harder to do. And again, could be because I'm bad at defense.
Right,
I
exactly.
might just be really bad at defense. But, that's a problem. And something I've noticed, it doesn't happen to me a whole lot, but it happens to the computer a whole lot. And I know that it does almost kind of take away from the realism when it happens once a week. But when I go to punt the ball, I get roughing the kickers all the time. Well, the computer gets roughing
so
the kickers
many of
all
them,
the time.
so many.
And so then I'm getting free first downs, reviving drives. And look, I'm not complaining because, sure, I get to keep going and marching down the field. But it feels like I like that there's more, because I feel like sometimes in Madden your punter gets run into and nothing happens. Or even in the older college football games and nothing really happens.
Right.
So I like that there's that attention to detail, but I feel like, I don't know, it's far too often that a guy, because a lot of times it's not like I'm about to get blocked and then I get hit. It's like I've punted it off and the
then
guy's
like
on the
3 seconds
return.
after he hits you,
So it just feels like maybe the computer's blocking decision making could be a little bit better. And an issue that a lot of people are kind of noticing that I believe they're going to take into effect in this first patch is the offensive line's blocking is kind of bad no matter how good your offensive line is.
Yeah.
And there are just some plays where nobody blocks. And so I'm hoping that that's something that's maybe fixed. Look, if I've got when my first year at Marshall, I thought it was really just my offensive line. And it happened a lot more because I was at Marshall and my offensive line was a lot worse. Especially when I made the college football playoff for the first time, and just seeing that differential between that Notre Dame defensive line and the Marshall offensive line. But I feel like when I'm playing with North Carolina and I've recruited a bunch of 5-stars to play, or 4 and 5-stars to play on my offensive line, and they're all 85 plus overalls, I feel like I shouldn't be having as many issues.
Right.
I shouldn't be getting sacked 5 times a game. And so, but that stuff that's going to be fixed, it's stuff that can be fixed, and it's stuff that's so be it. Clearly I'm still having fun. I'm still playing the game, so it's not enough to tear me down. But sure, I'm not going to sit here and say that the game is completely perfect, and there are things that need to be fixed, but they're ready to go out and kind of fix that. I think the patch comes out.
It'll be tomorrow or the day after that. One of the two. It's coming very soon on that. So, I will agree with that. I mean, a perfect example of it is Sam Houston. My first year, and I was like, okay, the offensive line. I recruited a lot. I eventually got the number one player in the entire country, which was a left tackle.
Wow, that's criminal.
That was the best thing I ever got, from Fort Wayne, Indiana, to Sam Houston.
So he wasn't even from Texas.
No, he
That's
wasn't.
Unbelievable.
But we were number 3 on his board, so I'm like, oh my god, I have to go after him. I think I did maximum number of recruiting points every single week. I'm like, I gotta have this guy.
Yep.
I'm just not gonna stop.
Hey, props to that guy. He wanted to make a name for himself at Sam Houston as the number 1 player in the country.
But I got to a point where like the minimum, the lowest overall guy, I think it was one of my guards, was 85. The rest of them 88, 91, 87, and I'm playing in Conference USA.
Yeah.
And 2-7 New Mexico State is breaking through my line I'm facing Notre Dame. I'm like, okay, come on. You got to give me. I'm not asking for a ton of time, but I'm facing 2-7 New Mexico State here. I don't know what you want from me, but like you said, that's going to be some patch they're going to make soon. Enough about gameplay, though. Let's move to the next part, which is another thing that we can agree, I think they nailed on, is the presentation in the game. And that was one thing that they said was they know every single team is someone's favorite in the game. And I think you see that level of presentation playing with lower tier school. You see it even at the lowest level of the programs. I'm sure you can say it too with you being a Marshall. They did a lot of detail even at those lower tiers come along with those bigger schools.
Yeah, they really took care of the game and made sure it feels like, the real deal and the real traditions that are respected. One thing that I really liked that I hadn't paid attention to at all because I'd been at Marshall and I guess they don't have one of these, unique celebrations. But when my first year at North Carolina in my first game, I got a pick six on my first defensive drive, and then they did the little. They have like a turnover belt, like a championship belt that they do on the sideline, and so that was really cool to see that they have a bunch of those unique turnover traditions. And then I've thrown several interceptions where I've had to watch. I had to watch Oregon do the O in the camera 3 times in a game, and I almost put my.
Can I just say, every time I do that, I try to skip through it and it doesn't let me. I'm like, I don't want to see this.
Yeah, that was a bad. I won. I ended up winning that game in the college football playoff, but I almost put my controller through my screen when I threw that first interception, and I had the O in my face. I was like, "You're kidding me."
But no, I will agree with the presentation. By the way, can I just say all the hype about going to Happy Valley and trying to play a game can confirm probably the most difficult thing I've ever had to do.
Yeah, that was a game generated on my schedule. My first year at Marshall was to go into Happy Valley and play Penn State. So I tried it, and I got stomped. I mean, they beat me down. I considered just ending the dynasty entirely.
It's like, you know what? Maybe we're just not cut out for. I mean, I've seen guys physically quit the game because I'm tired of playing at Happy Valley. I'm sick of playing there. And that shows you because, let's face it, going and playing at Happy Valley is a pain in the butt, especially at night whenever you go there. And I think they absolutely nailed the presentation for that. And another thing that I think is cool for it, although I can tell it's not working fully as I thought it would, is dynamic attendance.
Yeah.
Which I do like. But, like I said, I'm doing a Sam Houston dynasty of mine. And we've gotten into the top 10 years, and we're not even having a full stadium still at point. So, I mean, I like it because the first couple years we were mediocre. Not a lot of people are there. Hardly anybody's there. But I would like it to go up more, a little bit more. And if I'm ranked in the top 10 at Sam Houston, I'm expecting a full house.
Yeah, you're expecting the students to be filling the stands at that point.
Absolutely. But yeah, presentation was top notch in everyone I've seen. Now, let's be honest with you. Have I played with all 134 teams in the game? I have not gotten the chance to do that yet, but I don't even know the number I've seen overall. But the ones I've seen have had great detail. I've even seen one, you could read a plaque behind the end zone. Like, you could physically read the plaque. I forget what school it was. Like, I could literally read it. I'm like, wow, that is incredibly cool. It was so awesome. But another thing in presentation we're going to talk about now is the commentary. Now, one thing about this game that was new from Madden, which now, of course, Madden will have it this year, is multiple commentary teams. You had Reese Davis, you had David Pollock, you had Jesse Palmer as like the secondary crew. And the one thing I do like, even though I don't get to hear them a lot, is you have Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit as like, we do the game of the week, Reese and them handle the rest of them, which is a fun dynamic. But like I said, with being like such a lower tier team, I think I hear Reese 98% of the time.
Yeah, I don't really, well, until I got to North Carolina, I hadn't heard Kirk Herbstreit's voice at all until I went to the college football playoff with Marshall. Yeah. Now I hear it a little bit more often at North Carolina. But yeah, it's certainly a fun aspect, and it does add to the realism because, that's how it is in real life. ESPN, saves Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler to call that big game every week. Yep. And so it does feel a little bit more realistic when you're playing that ESPN's game of the week. That's the crew you get.
Absolutely. And I will say, look, color commentary is top notch. David Pollock, Jesse Palmer, and Kirk, all three of them, incredible color commentary. My issue is Reese and Chris Fowler, and I know Chris Fowler already said that he's redoing some of them because he didn't like the energy. I really didn't think there was enough energy from Chris Fowler. Reese Davis had energy on touchdowns, but it felt like his play-by-play was kind of robotic. And I know it's like, well, it's a video game. No dip, Sherlock. But I don't know. It's just the way they hyped it up. I was a tiny bit disappointed in the play-by-play.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's not as energetic as they initially portrayed it.
Yeah, but like they said, they're already Chris Fowler said he didn't like them, so he's redoing them, which shows he's like, listen, I want to make this as realistic as possible. But no, the color commentary by them, I'm loving the breakdowns. They could be having discussions about the transfer portal. Kirk's having genuine reactions to what's happening on the field. The color commentary, I think, is top notch in the game. And listen, they're really good announcers, Reese Davis and Chris Fowler. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I was just expecting a lot better with how they hyped it up in the game and stuff. But they're still good commentary, and it's just something different from, no disrespect to Brad Nessler, but when you play NCAA 14 for 11 years, you kind of get tired of hearing Brad Nessler's voice.
Yeah, it's starting to wear me down. And
Brandon Gaudin and Charles Davis and Madden,
Yeah, and it was like you said, with NCAA 14, it's not just hearing the same guy over and over again kind of drowns you out, but it is so robotic and you've heard every combination of every single word he could possibly say because we played the game for about 10 more years than it was supposed to be played. When it initially was made, so obviously it wasn't made to have the dialogue of a game that's going to be played for 11 years. So you hear all the same things, and so it is nice to kind of have a change and, a bit of a change of paces, actually saying the last names and it sounding a little bit more fluid because, one, you didn't really have names in the old games.
No.
And now, the names, of course, they still had them, but you could definitely tell where there's the pause where they insert the name as a separate audio
with
file.
The catch. It's
yeah. And so then with this one, it feels a little bit more genuine with all those names. They kind of rattle them off a little bit quicker, and it just sounds a little bit better.
Absolutely. But Austin, I think it's time we talk about the mode that makes this game what it was for so many years for NCAA 14. It's time we talk Dynasty mode, and I'll let you have first crack at it. I've lost track of how many Dynasties I've already started. I think I've started maybe 7 or 8, maybe, Dynasties.
Yeah.
Your thought on Dynasty mode? What is the feeling from a big time Dynasty mode player?
Yeah, man, I love this game mode. It's so the thing that is so incredible about this game, especially about in this the Dynasty mode, is that it doesn't feel like it's missed a beat. It feels like the modernization of NCAA 14. It feels like a progression of 11 years. Like it's where the next step, it just doesn't miss a beat. Because the recruiting, while new and different, still feels the same. You're still doing the same kind of assigning hours to different players. It's just a little bit different about how you go about it. And it's more modernized. You're DMing players or checking their social media. And promising, television exposure has always been one thing, but now the different brands and stuff for players, NIL, so that's a big part of it. So it really is kind of really fun. Like I was worried that coming into this game with recruiting, that's where it was going to take me so long to get used to. But I've pretty quickly figured out my own strategy that I kind of follow as I go into every year of recruiting. And I know in our little online dynasty we're doing, you're kicking my butt right now recruiting. You've stolen about 3 or 4 guys. Daniel Trout, just know when we play next year, I will be putting a bounty on your head. 4-star running back, I think.
Yeah.
Recruits to Washington State. Before because I knew you were the number 1 team, I specifically set his visit for week 13 when we play this year. Didn't even give me the time of day to see that game through.
Hey, think about it. He's only verbally committed. If you win that game when we play it here soon,
maybe he'll decommit.
He might flip.
I've yet to see a player decommit from a verbal commitment.
Really? I've had multiple happen on me and Sam Houston, where
Wow.
there was one that made me so mad when we played. So it was very late in the season. It was a non-conference game. I think it was like 2028. So it's like at the point where it's like kind of made up, where Oklahoma came to Sam Houston.
Wow.
In the series. And I'm in the lead for this 4-star, I think, like defensive tackle, and we lose in overtime to Oklahoma, which is heartbreaking. And he had already committed to me, was verbally committed after the game. He flipped to Oklahoma.
That's bad.
I was like, are you
Oh,
kidding
that's
me,
tough.
dude? What did one game decides how you do it? Now, I mean, I haven't seen it a lot, like
Yeah.
one or two times, but that was the most angry I was at a recruit. I'm like, I scheduled Oklahoma the next year solely so I
Wow.
could run the ball right up the middle at
Right up
him.
the middle at
And
him.
I
No,
was like,
that's crazy.
I recruited a big time power back. I'm like, I'm gonna run right at you on first down every single play, and I hope you're ready to make the plays. But no, I'm with you on the dynasty mode. It feels so great, and you can tell they put effort into recruiting. Because I'll be honest with you, recruiting as it is a lot like the NCAA game, it's a little bit more challenging this time around, which is good, because there was a legit system where you could do the low lock thing in
Yeah.
NCAA and get a 5-star. You can technically still do that if you go to like the no offer screen after the first couple weeks, but it's not like, oh, it's a 5-star number one player in the country. It's like, here's a 3-star. See if he's a gem. Of
Yeah.
maybe if you're lucky a 4-star. So it's going with your board from the get go, and then maybe finding one or two guys on there.
Yeah, I agree. I really do like that. Yeah, it's like almost like important to the players that you pick them right out of the gate.
Yep.
They usually stick with the people who recruit them from the beginning, and like you said, you can't just go in and find these top of the line players halfway through the season when you've got half your recruiting board and so the other half maybe is committed somewhere else, so you got some points to spend. You really have to pick from the beginning to get the best guys, because what's left at the end is usually a bunch of 1 and 2 star guys.
Where you're like, maybe if he's a gem, I'll
Yeah.
look into recruit him. If not, it's just extra hours there. Yeah.
And I do like that you have to balance your scholarships between recruiting and the transfer portal. You can't just load up and get you can load up your recruiting board and land all those guys, but then you've got no space.
You're just not going to be able to touch the portal.
Yeah, the transfer portal, and so it's a good balance if you want to use the transfer portal. I try to have a good mix of both.
Same.
To keep me going, but couldn't resist getting a top of the line quarterback this year in the transfer portal. So
I can't blame you either. Look, and I will say at a lower level school, once you get really good, you'll get more transfer portal options. Like
Yeah.
I'm getting like 4-stars that are interested now, but originally after like a 7-6 first year at Sam Houston, I was getting maybe a 2-star, maybe a 3-star transfer. And that was like the main thing, a lot of those. But as you get better, they're going to be like, well, okay, more recruits come, which is how it should be.
absolutely.
And like, I've seen one in a video, Caleb Downs, because it was a dynasty I was watching. The guy was recruiting Kentucky, and Caleb Downs entered the portal, and Kentucky went 10-3 and almost won the SEC. And for that, he committed to Kentucky in the portal.
That's crazy.
Caleb Downs going from Ohio State to Kentucky. That after leaving Alabama already, which is it's just crazy. But having success means you get the players there, which is how it should be on the game. And listen, the 12-team playoff was another big factor in this, and it's very fun. But let's face it, there is seeming to be a little bit of an issue with the simming that they're obviously, like we talked about, going to fix in the first patch, where some 8-4 teams are the number one team in the country, or like 6-6 teams are ranked in the top 25.
Yeah, I'll say for the most part, the big thing that is a catch for me, I haven't seen too many teams that I'm like, man, this team doesn't deserve to be in the college football playoff. But yeah, it does feel like a lot of teams. It's not necessarily that a lot of 4-loss teams are getting in that I don't think should be in. It's just there's so many teams that 2, 3, 4 losses.
Right.
That teams like that are going to get in. It does feel a little unrealistic there. And like you said, they're fixing kind of the balancing of, the favorites against the underdogs in the sim.
Because FCS schools, I tell you what,
they're a different beast.
You were like slightly worried about simming in NCAA 14. You can't sim past this game.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're Georgia. I've seen number one Georgia lose to an FCS in the first year. So
yeah, it's a bit of something there, but I think more the big thing for me is kind of sometimes the way the seeding is weighted.
Right.
Is a bit confusing. The first year for me that I made the college football playoff with Marshall, I went 13-1, and I lost my last regular season game and then won the conference. No, I went 12-1. So to going into the college football playoff. And so, but I still had a bye. And I feel like, look, maybe a group of or a group of five team could get a bye if they finish the season undefeated. But I feel like I lose to 6-6 or 5-7. James Madison, I don't exactly remember what their record was. In the last game of the regular season, even though I go on to win my conference and still have done good enough to, I think, make it. I definitely don't think they're going to give, especially how early I was into this dynasty, they're not going to give this group of five Marshall team a top four seed,
Right.
even though it's just the one loss. I feel like I probably did enough that's probably enough to demote me to the very last seed
Yeah.
and just put me in just because I'm one of the highest rated conference champions. So I do think the balancing is a little wrong on where teams are seated. But as that's something that's going to be fixed. I don't know if we'll see it this year. I do wish that they'd put in like a selection show for the last week where
I
they'd
would
show,
like that.
like show who makes it, so you're kind of on the edge of your seat. Because I didn't even realize they made the college football playoff for the first time until I just simmed, and then it was
Right,
like,
same.
here you are.
Or you have to scroll over to the
Yeah.
actual bracket and be like, oh, cool, I made it. And I will say another thing, this is just, me personally, something that I like to do in the old games and stuff is sometimes, especially with this game, you have the full schedule, you have 134 teams, you're like, man, if I don't make the natty, I can play it still. It'd be cool to play the national. You can't do that. You can only pick one team and you can't play as other teams. I feel like that's something that, like, look, that doesn't happen in Madden, but you could do it in the old NCAA games.
Yeah.
Which when it now it's like, okay, I didn't make the natty, I could still play and see what it's like. Or you're like me, you're like, let's do a full season simulation, see what happens, and I could play the big games and stuff like that. So I hope that there's a point where they add that in at some point for people like me or other people who, maybe you're just like, I mean, you could, if you really wanted to, with that, be like, oh, okay, I need this team to lose. I'll go in and play as the other team and beat them. Now, obviously, I wouldn't recommend that for realism's sakes, but
Yeah.
it's just, I think, a special thing that they could add. But I mean, look, this is what they came out with. It's great, and if we wanted to keep on telling them to add things, this just would have been delayed longer and longer and longer, and we'd not even get the game probably for another year or two. So, uh, Team Builder came out a little bit later than I think it was intended to, but I will say the creativity on Team Builder that I have seen in the few days it's been out has been really fun in this game.
Yeah, I love that people kind of have had this free reign to do what they want, and certainly there are people bringing that great creative energy to it. That certainly makes it fun. But I certainly love it. I haven't really played a game with a team builder team yet,
Yep.
but I've looked at some teams and I've downloaded some teams, and sure enough, I'll be doing like a UCA
Obviously.
build or something here pretty soon. But yeah, it's super fun and interesting to see that, and it's exciting. And look, it was something that people were hoping would come back with these games. It's something that kind of died out, and something that Madden never really adopted
Until now,
until
after
now that it's come back. Yeah,
they're like,
So,
oh, by the way, we have Team Builder. It's like, well, no, yeah, no one
and
cares.
I feel like maybe that'll make Madden a little bit more fun to play with. Like, hopefully you can do like expansion teams and relocation and kind of customize your team. Obviously,
Right.
we'll see what that looks like when Madden comes out. When I play the free trial with EA Play and then never
Yeah.
play it again. But I am really excited to kind of. I was super excited to see it and how it translates into the game, and so it is super fun. I kind of wish maybe next year they get it going where you can just do like the team builder and the team creation in the game.
Right.
Because maybe back in 2013 that was a little bit advanced for the games and whatnot. But now you have like 2K where you can just do all that stuff
Right.
in the game and upload all that stuff into the game. So I'm hoping that we're not too far removed from being able to do it that way, so that more people can get involved with the creativity and it's a little bit simpler.
Yeah, definitely. And I will say one thing I was telling him about. So I found one. I haven't played with him yet, but I found one that was a Monsters University one, for Monsters Inc. And it has a super, as tiny of a wide receiver as you could have that's super fast in Mike Wazowski, and then a 7-foot quarterback in James P. Sullivan, which I thought was just hilarious. But it shows it's like that's funny and that's something very creative that you could do for a team builder. Obviously, they made them way higher rated than if you wanted to like actually start with them, but it could be fun to play with. So yeah, team builder, great to have it back. And the last thing we're going to talk about before we give our official full rating for the game is Road to Glory. I haven't touched it a lot, neither have you, from what we talked about
Yeah.
before, but I will say it is a step up and just actually good compared to the superstar modes in Madden that they've tried the last couple of years.
Yeah, the superstar mode in Madden has been really garbage.
Just
That's
cutscene.
that's the
Yeah.
yeah, that's the nice way to put it. It's just cutscene after cutscene, and I don't know how many times I had to watch Deion Sanders talk to me
Oh my gosh.
last year before I could actually even try to play the game, which I didn't do for very long. One thing I've had a huge critique in Madden's career mode in for the last however many years is that you just have the whole playbook at your disposal no matter what position you play. So you just call whatever plays you want. And that's not realistic. Maybe if you're an NFL quarterback, just because NFL quarterbacks do actually
Yeah.
call the plays most of the time. But like if I'm a running back, I don't want and I shouldn't have the ability to call whatever play I want. I'm not playing running back to call the plays. I'm playing running back to be
Just
a
be like,
running
so,
back.
okay, here's move aside,
Yeah.
quarterback. We're gonna run this play. Actually.
And so that's something I like about the NCAA game is that you only have once you get everything unlocked, you have a maximum of 3 plays to choose from. And that's being fed to you from the coach, and I
Yep.
think that that's more realistic. I haven't actually played a snap yet. Shout out Army for not playing me my freshman year at all as a running back, but I do like kind of the premise of it, and I've played enough of the side stuff that's not the game to know that it's a cool way to try and balance. I do like that you have to balance your studying, balance playing, because that's part of being a student athlete. And I know that that's something that was missing from some of the newer Road to Glories was having to balance that school life, that academic life. And I mean, they flat out came and told me at the beginning of the year, not because I wasn't failing, I didn't let that happen, but they were like, "Hey, you got to keep a 2.0 GPA or you're off the team."
Yep.
And so it's like, sheesh, I really got to focus on studying and making good grades and passing my tests while trying to
Yeah.
crack the starting lineup.
And I will say a thing I do like. It's like if you were just to grind the GPA, you get to a higher point, you could literally not have to worry about it your senior year, which I think is a cool
Yeah.
thing because that's something that happened. Peyton Manning, he graduated his junior year. His senior, he just came back. He didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So it's something that I think is like a cool detail. And listen, I'm glad they don't do cutscenes. They do the little text message things.
Saves so much time.
It really does because all you gotta do is click something and be like, "Hey, I'm going out, but it'll be past curfew. You wanna go?" It's like, "Do you want to risk it or not?" And then it quickly lets you know. It's like, "Hey, coach found out. You're screwed. You lost a
you're
lot of
suspended
trust."
for 10 years.
So yeah. But that's the mode probably I've touched the least out of all of them. But I've played a little bit still. So absolutely, it is a step up from the superstar mode. But we've talked about gameplay, presentation, all of it, everything. Dynasty, Austin, on a scale of 1 to 100, what is your number for the first round? Constantly, like we talked about, there will be updates for the first round of college football 25.
I'd put it at like an 89.5. Like it's right there in the 90 range. A couple updates maybe to fix a little bit of stuff in the gameplay to make it feel a little bit more realistic and in the sim especially for some of these other teams and the way it shakes out. But I've really enjoyed my time. It was a big weight off my shoulders, and I had nothing to do with this game, but it's a big weight off my shoulders that this game actually is good and fun to play, and that people are enjoying it, that I'm enjoying it. Because I was really going to be upset if I had waited all this time for a new college football game, and I just hated it. So I'm glad that I don't have to worry about falling back on NCAA 14. We can let the game rest. We can let the old consoles rest.
Yep.
And
The 360 has been resting for a bit up here. It's finally had its rest. I unplugged it the other day. I was like, you know what? I'll plug it back in if I want to throw back one day, or if I'm waiting for a big update on the game, maybe. But it's gone. This thing has lasted what, I forget how many years I had it before, even NCAA 14.
Me too.
I
probably
it deserves a rest.
Yeah, I'm probably nearing 20 years on my PlayStation 3.
I'm really trying to think. I know I had Madden 10 on there, which tells
Wow.
me everything that I need to know about how long it's been. So yeah, but it's finally can rest. We have this, and it's just refreshing to play a college football game on like the newest level of console, not being like, okay, let me plug in the 360. It's like, oh, I got the
Yeah.
brand new one. I'm good. I can just log on to here with all the other games you can play with it instead of having to, plug in one console just
Yeah.
to play one game. Because, I mean, if you have been having an Xbox 360 to play anything besides the NCAA games of any kind,
Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga.
there you go. Okay, I can't lie. I have played a little bit of. There's a Wipeout game on the 360 that I
Okay,
played a lot. We
Wipeout.
had the sensor. You remember the sensor
The
bar on
Kinect?
top? The Kinect
Yes.
had that on there.
I'm looking at investing in a Kinect. They have that Kinect Sports 1 and 2.
Yes.
I never owned either game, but
I
it
have a
looks
hole
fun.
in the wall that involves the Kinect. Like hole in the
Wow.
wall, the old video,
Yeah.
the old game show.
Where you have to like try and fit through the
Yep,
different
it was
shapes.
actually like a Kinect one. It was super fun, and then there was
That sounds like too advanced for the Kinect's technology. I think
I-
that'd be a hard game
it was
to play.
it was a hard game to play. Then there was one I don't know if I still have it. It was called like U-Star, which basically it put you in,
In
the
the
movies
I had
with the
that. Me and my
Kinect.
sister
Yeah.
used to play that all the
Yeah,
time.
it was so fun, but this thing can finally rest now. It can take some time. My rating, it's pretty close to yours. I went with a 87 for it, like you said. It's overall a really fun game. There's just a couple of minor things that they can fix in an update that will easily get it into the 90s, and then who knows what happens after that. Because my big thing is I'm curious to play this game when the season is actually going on.
Yeah.
In like week by week, how is that going to play out with the roster updates and everything like that? That could change overall many things on it. But yeah, 87, you got an 89.5 from us. That is our official ratings. And really, I think there's nothing else to say. I want to get back to playing the game. So,
Yeah, me too.
Yep. But that is going to be it for this episode. That is our review. Plans for next week, we're trying to figure it out. We're 5 Saturdays away from college football coming back. So you know what that means. After our most successful college football season, we get to make our return with this man's genius player and teams of the week. You already know we'll have it for week 0 when Florida State and Georgia Tech battle it out in Ireland. You already know it. So we're getting close to it. We will have some fun ideas for that. NFL as well. But I got nothing else to say, Austin. You got anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so.
All right, let's get out of here and let's play some more College Football 25. That's Austin Hill. I'm Austin Wader. Enjoy your dynasties, and we'll see you in our next episode.